Welcome everyone to episode 30 of Rapid Reviews Radio. This episode is a special episode. It kind of sprung forth from one of last week's news stories, specifically the Naughty Dog story. And the story itself became so layered the further that we dove into it that Pete and I agreed that it was actually part of a much larger conversation that needed to be had. So, for this episode, we're changing the format only slightly. It'll be more of a roundtable discussion. We have a special guest today. We actually had another guest lined up to join us as well, in addition to it would be freelancer Ryan Brown, but unfortunately we were unable to get a hold of him, and we don't know why he hasn't joined us. But I do have today Pete and Jen. Hello, folks. And Jen, who is Ladies Sugar Cube, one of our writers. They will both be here to discuss the larger implications of the Naughty Dog controversy. So, having said that, we will not open with news stories. We're going to have the first half will be a discussion of the more technical aspects of the controversy. There will be no spoilers for The Last of Us 2 in the first half. We will then take a break, have a very small You Got This section to give everyone just a kind of moment to regroup. And then when we come back, the second half may or may not contain spoilers. At this point, we can't say, but there won't be an attempt to not have spoilers. So if you're worried about The Last of Us 2 spoilers, maybe avoid the second half until you get a chance to play. But that will start us off. We're going to actually have Pete go over quickly go over the timeline of events that have led up to the current situation, and then we will get into the discussion. So take it away, Pete.
Sure. This is basically me doing my job for the news, but actually delving only into one topic this time, which is quite weird to say the least. So,
right.
So the timeline of events is actually slightly longer than most people seem to realise it actually is. So, to start us off, on the 2nd of April, Sony and Naughty Dog announces that there was an indefinite delay to the game. They didn't announce any release date. They just said, we're going to have to put this on hold for the future due to the COVID-19 problem and shipping and all that sort of thing. Then on April 4th, the opening 7-minute cutscene of the game was actually leaked online. And this one, unfortunately, didn't get a lot of press, which is a bit strange to say the least. But, so we've known about that cutscene for quite a long time, but we're going to fast forward to the 27th of April, which was a couple of weeks ago, where a lot of the game's assets leaked online, including story cutscenes, images, and around 2 hours of gameplay footage. We can go over the implications of what actually happened in terms of that leak and how it occurred a bit later, because they have confirmed a potential way that it could have happened.
Yes.
So, on the same day, on the 27th of April, a Reddit post was added to The Last of Us 2 subreddit, and there was also a post on 4chan, I believe, stating that leaks came about because a Naughty Dog employee or contractor was disgruntled about their request for their bonus being paid early being denied by Naughty Dog. We don't know how true or false this is at present. This was just speculation more than anything. So, again, on the 27th of April, most of what you'll see is now very reactionary to what's happened. Via a blog post on the PlayStation blog, new SIE worldwide studio head Herman Holst announces the release date for The Last of Us 2 being the 19th of June, whereas Ghost of Tsushima is then pushed back to July. We believe that this is reactionary based on the fact that leaks are out there and they want the game earlier rather than after Ghost of Tsushima. The 27th of April, again, Naughty Dog shares an image on Twitter, which is essentially a statement from them as the publisher, states that we are very disappointed by the leaks and letting people know there are leaks out there, basically, and to avoid certain parts of what's going on. So this is where the outlets like Kotaku, Polygon, VG247, and a lot of other publications on the 28th of April all started writing their articles about the leaks, where the vast majority of them don't actually delve into what the leaks are. They just say leaks are out there, be careful. You didn't get any any sort of hot takes that could be seen as deplorable or ridiculous at this point. However, this is where the ridiculous does start to happen. On the 28th of April, quite a lot of YouTubers, including Angry Joe, Geeks and Gamers, reported that they got DMCA takedowns from SIE Worldwide, Naughty Dog, and a third-party company by the name of Muso TNT Limited, who are apparently working on behalf of Naughty Dog and Sony to take some of these down. It's not just YouTube videos that are targeted. It was actually tweets as well that also included some spoiler stuff. So Storm Yorha, if I pronounce the name wrong, I apologise, and a Twitter gentleman by the name of Jeremy Prime have reported on their posts being removed due to a DMCA copyright infringement, which is very, very weird. Angry Joe got his video taken down. Another YouTuber called The Quartering was covering the leaks a lot, and his videos didn't seem to get taken down despite the fact that his thumbnail images did include some images that could be conceived as spoilers. Weirdly enough. So we'll move on to the 1st of May, where Sony announces via an article on gamesindustry.biz that the leakers have been caught and identified, and state that they were not affiliated with Naughty Dog or SIE, which obviously contradicts the story that this was a disgruntled employee who had leaked the game out. On the 2nd and the 3rd of May is when we start to see YouTubers discuss the unlawful copyright claims being put their way by Naughty Dog, SIE, and Muso TNT Limited. We also start to see a lot more publications now covering the fact that the leaks are happening a lot more and going into Sony's statement about the leakers. It was at this point that people were starting to look around at Muso TNT Limited on Companies House, which is a UK-based business checker, which you can find a lot of the stuff to do with company directors, finances, and affiliates, to which showed that a lot of the company directors have actually quit in the last couple of months and have been and they haven't actually updated their records on their website, including addresses, which seems very, very weird and suspicious. But Muso claim that they are a leading authority in digital privacy and copyright. Certain outlets are stating that Muso have absolutely nothing to do with SIE or to Naughty Dog, but a lot of different places are stating as well that they are actually employed by Sony and by Naughty Dog to leverage these DMCA takedowns. The last bit of news that we do have in terms of this whole entire thing going on, and sorry, this has been a bit of a long one. On the 5th of May, the director and writer of the game, Neil Druckmann, announces via a video on YouTube, and as a game director, I got very annoyed by this because portraited it rather than landscaped his video. I won't go into that anymore. But The Last of Us 2's master copy had gone gold and discs were being pressed. To which I actually missed out one last thing that happened a couple of days later, so I'll go into that in a minute. But in terms of this video on YouTube on Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog's account, had comments, likes, and dislikes disabled. The comments, understandably so, but the like to dislike ratio, a bit of a strange one. However, a couple of days later, I believe on the 7th of May, on the Thursday that's just got, The Last of Us 2 dropped a spoiler trailer, not a spoiler trailer, a new story-based trailer, which, to the eagle-eyed viewers who had seen the leaks, had seen a specific area of that pretty much confirms the leaks to be true. And that's where we're at the moment.
That hopefully brings everyone up to speed with the current timeline of events. As you see there, listeners, it is a very multi-layered story with lots of differing aspects, which is why we decided to do it in this structure, this roundtable discussion. So leading off in this first half, we're going to start by discussing, and I would love to hear both of your opinions on Naughty Dog's notorious crunch culture environment. The fact that they push their devs harder than most other companies. Have done. There's been several articles about it, several dev point of views and statements released, mostly anonymously for good reason.
Sure.
So I would like to hear, do you think that Naughty Dog has a problem with crunch culture? And how do you think it has affected the leaks that are out there?
I believe I've spoke enough already, so I'll let Jennifer take this one first, actually.
Okay. Well, I gotta say, crunch culture is something that we see more and more, not only in the gaming industry, but also in other kind of fields. And even though my profession, I'm an assistant, has really swifted over the years into something more intense, and the globalization we have to compete with more people, we have to be better, we have to be faster, we have to be stronger, is something that took a real toll on everyone. But we kind of are in a spiral and can't stop right now, which leads to something like a hamster of some sort. And seeing that Naughty Dog even presses people harder than the average gaming companies, it's heartbreaking, because where is the stop to this? And also the thing went on my radar, and I got into this kind of topic even more when something like the Telltale disaster happened. It's something with crunch itself, but how fragile and how instability it lies into the gaming industry, and working overtime, working and barely living, even though you still pay rent and everything for this, makes you question why you do it. And people burn out even though they do something they used to love in the beginning, which is even more heartbreaking and even more sad. And Naughty Dog became some sort of developer, or not developer, but some company that I stepped away from gradually because of that. I mean, buying a game that you might enjoy, and even though there was crunch behind it, might be something, because you never really know. And with people arguing over the internet, and everyone has their own opinion, and sometimes there is a little bit of false information or misunderstandings. It's hard to filter out something, but this has to stop. Actually, it really has to stop. And that's why I decided not to support Naughty Dog that much, or even at all, because of this kind of thing. Because crunch culture is something that breaks you and can ruin your life. And if a company does not actually respect that, then they don't deserve anything, in my opinion. That's
Yeah. I think I would probably have to...
Yeah, crunch.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you on most of that point, actually, to be fair.
Thing is, over all been there. Is something that has have to stay a few hours longer, but if the hours turn into weeks, this is not a situation that might change, and you lose kind of faith that it will. And the whole perspective with the whole how to say this, the whole view of points, the pressure that everyone gets to produce something good isn't really, you can realize this in a normal working condition.
Sure.
Right.
That's it. That's what I think.
Fair enough.
And yeah, that's just a very sad kind of thing, and why I can't understand that they still continue with this. And yeah.
I mean, the thing for me is that crunch culture is unfortunately becoming pretty much the norm and the standard for certain companies within the industry. We've seen obviously exposés by Jason Schreier in terms of talking about not only Naughty Dog but also Rockstar Games. Rockstar Games are very notorious for that. There is a big difference in that. I mean, you said that you don't really support Naughty Dog at all, in the fact that you've decided to pretty much boycott them. But yet, there are other companies that are doing this. There are plenty of companies that are doing this. It's not just in the gaming industry, it's the film industry, it is everything, you know. And you just have to look at, for example, the Sonic movie that got delayed, where, you know, there was the outcry about the look of Sonic himself.
Yes.
And then they then pushed the film back by 6 months because they didn't want their animators to crunch on it. And they specifically said that, but you could imagine there was still some minor amount of crunch in that, because it's not an easy job to do, to animate something quite like that. And then you look at the games industry where everything is all done via animation. There will probably be rewrites at certain points. They have to get actors in again to do motion capture and re-record lines and all that sort of thing. I don't necessarily want to defend Naughty Dog in any way, shape or form, because there are a lot of other companies elsewhere that are crunching. There are a lot of them, but they don't crunch to the certain degree that Naughty Dog are doing, where they will talk to people within their organisation, and they will actively encourage them to do overtime. It's like, oh, if you don't do 45 plus hours, if you can do your 45 plus hours a week, but you won't get quite the same recognition at the end of a project that you do if you do more than that. And the bonus is affected greatly by the amount of hours that you are completing there. And with the vast majority of people stating that they are pulling minimum, and I think this is utterly wrong, 80-hour work weeks, which I did the maths on that the other day. It pretty much works out as 6 12-hour days and 1 8-hour day, which is insane.
It is. It really is. And
it's crazy. It's crazy. There's no days off for these poor developers, and they're
well, let me ask this. So crunch culture, as it's understood, is working more than your allotted hours and pulling in, night work and all those kinds of things. So if crunch culture exists, do you feel that it is company driven, profit driven, or do you think that it's the gamers themselves that are demanding games faster, with better quality, and it really falls on the responsibility of their shoulders, or is it profit driven by the nameless, faceless corporations?
I dare to say it's some sort of mix of it, but the majority
Agreed.
are the audience.
You reckon?
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate further on that one. I'd like to hear.
The thing is, I saw it on social media quite often, and I mean, it's your total right to say if you don't like this. But people got so... It's very thin ice. I'm aware of that. But people get a little bit high standards because the whole technology developed so incredible fast, and just watching the first steps of video gaming up to the point we are right now. I mean, you can see pores, you can see hair, you can see so much on a character right now, which was impossible just 10 years ago. And this texture, this structuring takes time, or you need to have more people to do and work on the same things, which makes the thing a little bit more endurable for the individual, but not in a team work, which is not the topic right now. But people just complaining, and to get back to the Sonic movie about the whole character appearance is just and they changing it, which is okay. They kind of had to do it because if they wouldn't, people would just freak out and boycott the whole movie, which is kind of their right, but kind of isn't, because it's not their movie. I mean, they are the audience, and this is the thing that, money makes the world go round. And if no one watches your video, buys your game, the crunch was for nothing. But at the same time, many people, not all of them, and I don't want to say it's a specific age group or people growing up there doing this, playing this kind of genre or anything, just in general, people say that not good graphics do ruin a good. People popping up to stand against that, and this is something that I see as one of the vast majority and also the biggest problem out there. If it isn't perfect, it means everything is ruined. It's some sort of black and white thinking and comparison.
So Pete, I heard you kind of slightly disagree in the beginning.
I did, because I don't actually necessarily think this is just the audience's problem. This is not...
No.
I would agree with Jennifer when she said that it could be all three. However, I think this is solely on Naughty Dog more than anyone. The audience demands perfection, and I get that. And I have heard that stance of, if a game doesn't look good, then it's terrible. It can play amazingly, but it's still a terrible game if it looks bad. That's the worst view that I've ever heard in my life, to be honest, because it's not all about looks. It's the same principle as, finding a partner. They might not look amazing to everybody, but they do to you. And that's all that matters. I think, and I'll bring up...
The whole approach is just wrong.
Exactly. But I will bring up one piece of evidence that supports the entirety of this being Naughty Dog's issue. Amy Hennig.
Yes, Amy Hennig. She was the producer, director, writer on Uncharted 4.
No, it's Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, and she left for 4. She was the original creator of the Uncharted series.
That's right. very well respected and well loved series.
Yes, because and she also made Legacy of Kain as well, Soul Reaver, so which is a very well respected series.
Absolutely.
The thing is that she's come out in an article not long ago actually, stating that the minimum amount of hours that she would do every week was 80 hours, and she would be looked down upon if she didn't do that. She would come home exhausted, people barely able to see families, and then at the end of it they're given this nice bonus and gone, oh yeah, you did a great job, and now we're going to crunch again on our next game. And it sounds like it's not just an end of development cycle, which is what you hear with people like Rockstar Games, where to get the game polished and ready, they will crunch at the end. No, it sounds like Naughty Dog crunches all the time, which is where my issue stands with this, because I worry that they're burning people out so aggressively just for the art of a story. And if I'm honest with you, from what I've seen of The Last of Us, it is essentially mostly an interactive movie anyway.
That would be what a lot of people feel. They feel that is a fair assessment. But since you've brought up Amy Hennig,
Hennig.
Thank you. There was also a former employee who, by the name of Jonathan Cooper, who was an ex-animator, and he released a statement in the early part of March 12th, that says, when I left Naughty Dog late last year, they threatened to withhold my final paycheck until I signed additional paperwork stating I wouldn't share their production practices. They finally relented when I assured them that was most likely illegal. Now, factually, it's been reported that he has confessed that he only worked 46 hours a week with a slew of other story animators, and that he was a witness to big crunch times on the other team.
Yeah, I remember the part of the statement about this, wasn't it? Was that he was part of the story team who apparently had all of their stuff all together, so they were more reactionary based on everything else that was going on, so they never worked more than 45 hours a week.
Right. So, having this kind of inside information, do you think, with Amy Hennig's statement and now this Jonathan Cooper statement, do you think there's credence to Naughty Dog's practices being completely abysmal, or do you think that there has been some added enhancement for,
I personally think that there's been minor enhancements added to certain parts of this story. In every aspect of it, the crunch culture, the leaks themselves, and it's not through Amy Hennig, and it's definitely not through Jonathan Cooper at all. It's through Jason Schreier, I think,
yes.
and any media outlet that are actually discussing these parts of things, and we'll go specifically into a particular article on VG247 by Kirk McKeon later, which I felt was a bit egregious about this whole thing. But the fact is that they are Jason Schreier was only looking at the crunch culture side of things, yet he done the 10,000 word expose on the crunch culture of Anthem and BioWare, yet went hard on them, very, very hard. Did the same with Rockstar with Red Dead Redemption 2, but the fact is that he prefaced this by sort of having this whole idea, and I'll use the example on the Red Dead Redemption 2 article that he wrote, was the sort of stance of you should support the developers because of the amount of hours they've put into this game, yet the Anthem one was you should boycott this game because of their practices.
Right.
Which was weird. So, and this one, he was sort of like,
to put it politely,
didn't exactly turn around and say you should boycott Naughty Dog, because he has sources at Naughty Dog, and he's not. And I think a lot of the journalists are sort of adding to the fervor of this because they want copies of the game.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question to you both, which was, Jason Schreier seems to be by appearances, the only one that has a connection to these places or sources. Do you think other journalists are staying away from talking about the crunch culture of Naughty Dog and Rockstar and any of the others because coming back to the almighty dollar profit, they don't want to lose out on their own advertising dollars or being blacklisted as reviewers/writers. So basically the question is, do you think the lack of coverage is contributing to the crunch culture?
Yes.
Yes. 100% agree.
Yeah.
And what I want to add is it boils down to the initial question, why does Naughty Dog continue with this heavy amount of crunch? And it's the mixture of everything, like I said a little bit, but I think also the majority of audience and gamers and people spending their money, their hard-earned, on the company is the biggest thing that they are afraid of, and that's why they still do it, because they will buy that game. People are, and I don't want to say everyone is like this. They are just like, I don't care if they have to crunch. I want the enjoyment of the game. And which is for money. It's okay. You can spend it on whatever you want. You can want about it, but to shake a little bit of, sensitivity, a little bit of thinking about it twice, or even a third or fourth time, if there would be more people speaking up about it, not for the sake of gaining some sort of short or long-lived fame, but for making a change.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's the thing that's, like you said, it should be covered a little bit more, but not like, and this is the hardest thing of it, because people that are probably writing for bigger outlets, they have a lot of pressure not to kind of, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So they don't want to lose contacts within the company, or even get blacklisted from the beginning when they try to establish some sort of career in video gaming journalism. But at the same time, they have the impact and the power, if you, in air quotes, if you want to say it like this, because people read their kind of articles, while the smaller journalists, the freelancer, not getting this much of attention for their pieces like the bigger ones do. So
I agree. I do agree with that certain part of it. One of the things that I would probably go into is that this isn't just down to the fact that the journalists are not covering this, with exception to Schreier, but even Schreier's one has to be sort of added in there with a caveat. And that annoys me, is that you're seeing a lot of outlets out there who are refusing to talk about this because, like you said, they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. They don't want to upset that apple cart, and they don't want to be blacklisted, which has kind of ruined, for me, the journalistic integrity of the art of of real honest journalism. And I think that art has gone completely nowadays. It's not in video game discussions or anything like that. It's not even in politics anymore. Like, there is no thing as journalistic integrity anymore. It is literally, we are going to write pieces for promotion, and that's why we have things like sponsored content. We don't really have the journalistic integrity anymore, which annoys annoys me a lot, but I would say that most of this is down to the dollar. It's down to the sales, and it's down to Naughty Dog as a developer. What they do, from what I've heard, is that they get young, hungry, new into the industry developers who have either just come out of college or university or have worked on their own games as an indie developer. Get them in hungry and want them to basically fulfill all these hours because they need a job in the industry, and they exploit them quite heavily. And I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think the higher ups at Naughty Dog should be absolutely ashamed that they do things like that. And I believe that more outlets should be writing more hit pieces on crunch culture, because it is something that should not be accepted by anybody, even if you are excited about a game. Like, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I loved playing what I played of that game. I was excited about that game, but if I would have ever heard about them crunching, I would have refused to buy it, because I don't agree with the practice whatsoever.
Right.
And the game is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's, for me, it was a great experience, and that's what the key thing is. It's the experience. So long as everyone has developed the game in a logical, ethical workplace that is enjoyable for all, then I have no issues with it. It's just Naughty Dog's culture, especially when it came to the original Last of Us, Uncharted 4, and this game, has been very prevalent, and I can't support them with my hard-earned money, and I can't give money to the higher-ups who are either refusing to pay bonuses or refusing to give payments out to people like Jonathan Cooper because they need to sign additional documentation that their illegal practices are illegal. I don't get on board with that. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Which,
I said, Jen, do you want to add anything before I...
yeah, a little
Sure.
kind of question. And do you think, Pete, they continue to do this because they are Naughty Dog and they are...
Untouchable?
should I go down that road and do a pun or nothing?
They are a very naughty.
Are they
They are a
arrogant
very naughty
dog?
dog. They are a very naughty dog, and they should be punished.
That's been established in some other recordings, so yes, Naughty Dog is a Naughty Dog.
I think it's because they are arrogant dog. So they are just like, yeah, you work for us.
Yeah.
Now do what we ask you to do to get at least some sort of experience and a name in your resume, which is kind of big. Yeah. And this is the problem too.
Well, it's the same thing as what happened with Naughty Dog and working for people like Sam and Dan Houser. Dan Houser's not with Rockstar anymore, but Sam is, and he runs that company, even though he's they're under the 2K games and all that. I think it's 2K, isn't it? Is it? Or Take Two, sorry. Under Take Two Interactive. They've got bosses, but they run that company completely independently of them, but yet they still have crunch culture a lot. I mean, Naughty Dog are run pretty much single-handedly run by Sony with a lot of investment from them, but yet Sony could walk in at any point and stop this, but don't. That's my worry.
And
it leads to the next point, which is basically established that in at least our minds, crunch culture does exist. So the leaks that are in question, again, we're not going to discuss the leaks themselves in this section. But the fact is that there were leaks of The Last of Us 2. That's been confirmed. It's still up for debate on the originator of the leaks. So, but for this, I'm going to say, now that we've established that crunch culture is a thing that exists, do you think that crunch culture contributes and has contributed to the leaks of this, of The Last of Us 2? And do you think that crunch culture will be responsible for future leaks? almost revenge type leaking, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, without going into the leaks themselves, it is a particular theme that was actually that apparently is going to be explored quite heavily in the game. So it seems like weird justice that revenge would be something that inspires these leaks.
Right.
It would be poetry in motion, really, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be very, very poetic. Poetic justice.
Yes, that's the one. But I'm going to put my conspiracy theorist hat on here because I do love a good conspiracy. I believe the statement by SIE and Naughty Dog that this was the responsibility of hackers is a complete lie.
Jen, do you have a feeling on that particular line of thought? Do you think that it was hackers? Do you think it was an inside job born of revenge, or do you not have any feelings either way?
I have a very harsh point of view on leaks in general.
Okay.
Right.
But in this particular situation, I don't think that it was any work of hackers.
Yeah.
And it was, in my opinion, because leaks do exist because they get the attention on the internet. We got this from previous kind of games which ruined and made the fan base quite toxic towards the developer, rightfully so or not, is just your own opinion that you can form. And I don't want to discuss this, but I think it was something, especially because Naughty Dog is such a big name in the industry, something to finally say it's enough. And no matter where it come from, even though it was a friend of a friend from the person that got laid off or quit or anything, I don't know, maybe, but it is something because I think something born from the fact that this person want the Naughty Dog or the whole industry in general to change and had to take drastic measurements because there was not enough, in their opinion, coverage from any social media outlet or website or anything. So I don't think it was hackers, because why now? Because of quarantine and we don't have something to do. So okay, let's leak a game. Let's see, maybe let's take The Last of Us 2. So it's just kind of but yeah, I do think it's something born out of revenge at some sort, not against Naughty Dog in specific, but maybe the crunch culture in general.
I agree. Because the funny thing is, right, is I'm going to bring up an example of a leak that happened last year in the movie industry that nobody touched at all. Avengers Endgame. One of the biggest movies of the year. Leaks came out 2 weeks before, even to the point that Joe and Anthony Russo, the directors of the film, came out and said leaks are out there, exactly the same thing that Neil Druckmann did, basically. But yet, the collective internet decided not to touch those leaks at all, and even to the point where the film came out, there was a unwritten rule on social media that for 2 weeks no spoilers were even going to be discussed.
Right.
So there could have been revenge in that one for pushing people a bit too far with the making of those two movies together. And the constant rewrites, the reshoots and all that sort of thing. Even reshoots were happening a couple of months before the film even came out. So that could have annoyed people. That could have led to some sort of crunch. But yet it didn't affect that movie at all. Whereas this huge leak for Naughty Dog has been very detrimental to them. Has even pushed Sony's stock offering down as well. But... we're still talking about only the leaks, not actually why these leaks have come about. And it seems to me that Sony Interactive Entertainment and Naughty Dog are looking to hinge themselves more on the fact that these are two independent, unassociated people with these two companies that have caused this problem, and it is literally like passing the buck per se, and they're trying to pass the buck onto two people who don't deserve the buck to be passed to them, because actually this has come from an internal issue that should never have seen the light of day. And if they didn't want to see it the light of day, then they shouldn't have crunch culture and these disgusting practices anyway.
Right. And one thing that is usually established in a lot of occurrences, hacking is done. The fact that someone, I think they said it was a group hacked into Sony, only revealed The Last of Us 2 leaks to all of the other properties that Sony owns, not only in video games, but they have media properties all over, movies.
Yeah, they do.
All that kind of thing.
And this isn't the first time that Sony have been hacked. So you remember what happened with the interview?
That's what I was going to follow up with. Exactly. Sony is actually, weirdly enough, a quote-unquote victim. And yet has followed a set of behaviors that is not common to strictly hackers.
Yeah.
And I think, which kind of leads us to the next section, which is, if these are hackers, then whether or not they are hackers or not, whether they were hackers or it was a revenge case of a former employee, what do you each feel about Sony's reaction to these leaks? Not just Sony, but Neil Druckmann himself. Do you think the responses are overblown? Do you think that they are warranted? Do you think they're not enough? And by response, I am speaking, of course, acknowledging the leaks, the DMCA takedowns on various things, and Neil Druckmann's personal videos that he's posted. How do you feel the reaction has been on their part?
I'll let Jennifer go first, because I've got a lot to say about this one.
All right, Jen, you take this.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, hacker, Sony got hacked, okay. But for me, what doesn't make sense, if it was some sort of hackers, why did they only leak something about The Last of Us 2, like we just said?
Exactly.
Which is, that would be, I mean, if you want to kind of hurt Sony in what regard ever and not make it about Naughty Dog, then you would have leaked more.
Exactly.
And more about them, and not just targeted against one certain company, like in this case Naughty Dog. So I mean, if you would be able to hack Sony, and you don't normally do this for kind of money.
Right.
Some hacker might do, but this is more like a scam kind of thing.
Right.
This is completely different. This is just again in air quotes for the fame in the certain kind of hacker community, because it's a lot of achievement to break some sort of company's security, in my opinion, but I have no intel. For other specialized people in this, it might be a piece of cake, but still it's a huge deal. And it's not just to end which is kind of dramatic, Sony and Naughty Dog, but it's a personal attack on, in my opinion, on this kind of crunch culture, which is, like we all established, heavily implemented in Naughty Dog's company culture.
Yeah.
And the statement by Druckmann, I mean, it's damage control.
Absolutely.
And it's, oh God, I can't believe it. And yeah, I mean, if I was kind of putting myself into his shoes and thought, if you would be him, how would you react? And of course, making some sort of reaction video is something that is just, established in the whole internet YouTube kind of reaction. If a Dramageddon gets down, there's one side, there's another side, and you can pick yours.
Oh, of course.
To be on. And one statement follows. In this case, it's the leaks. Then they say something about it in the video, and he's just saying, yeah, I don't want to quote his video because I didn't really want to watch it to the end.
Right.
Actually.
Right. Yeah. And
because, even though before you clicked on that video that he's majorly disappointed and something like that, which kind of is rightfully so because they put a lot of effort and crunch into it. But realize that the crunch itself is just the wrong thing to do and led you into the whole situation. So sorry for me not being or cut down on the empathy on this part of feeling sorry for you. So yeah, I'm just kind of, you had it kind of coming on this regard.
Okay, fair enough.
Brave statement by Jen.
There's nothing brave about it, about being honest.
Yes.
There's no bravery here.
Yeah.
See, Jason?
Any cheap shot that you... I thought it was going to be me that takes the cheap shots at Schreier, but, you've done it. You've done it.
Yeah, I kind of apologize and I kind of don't.
No, don't.
It's a true statement. We're talking about ethics in journalism.
There's barely any ethics in journalism these days, which is what I said earlier on. So, what do I say about all of this? Jeez. This is a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
Understatement.
Firstly, yes, there you are. It's an understatement.
Firstly, the whole thing has just been handled so poorly by everybody. Handling the leaks, they should have ignored it. To start with, they should have ignored it, and then when it starts getting more and more out of control, then they can start doing something about it. They decided to try and go on the front foot, come to the very forefront of the issue, and take hold of it. Whereas what they've done by doing so is the Streisand effect. They've made the leaks more prevalent, and they've made them more... People want to spread them more to annoy Druckmann and Naughty Dog a lot more. I think these leaks were definitely done to upset them. And I don't agree with the leaks per se, and this is what I said to someone earlier on in the week. I don't agree with them. I don't believe that all this hard work that was put in by a lot of developers, it's not just one person, it's not Neil Druckmann, it is this entire team and their entire 80-hour weeks. Every single one of these people that have done 80-hour weeks, 45-hour weeks, 55-hour weeks, they will be disappointed by this. And I can sympathise with those people. That's where I have the empathy for them. Who I do not have any empathy for is Druckmann, Sony Interactive Entertainment, Muso TNT Limited. I don't have any sympathy for them. They came out fighting. They came out wanting to throw punches by incorrectly issuing copyright takedowns. They have essentially done over the YouTube community and meant that they are going on the offensive to add more leaks or to add more further to the story and literally just throwing more wood on the fire. They're just letting it burn. And rightly so. People like Geeks and Gamers, Angry Joe, who all had videos taken down, don't deserve that all because they were discussing it. If they would have had spoiler images, videos, the lot, I'd agree with it. But posting memes? Nah. No. Absolutely not. They have done a disservice to themselves, and to be honest with you, any more leaks that come out, they've only got themselves to blame on this one, I'm afraid. I have issues with how the leaks came about. The fact is that it wasn't through Sony's server, it was through Naughty Dog's server, which was apparently done through an Amazon AWS server key, and which an old, unupdated version of a previous game could unlock images, video, and gameplay for a game that has nothing to do with it. So how are they getting assets for Last of Us 2 through Uncharted 4 and the original Last of Us? Nah, that reeks of horse shit to me.
Right.
And I mean, just they don't, they aren't in the industry since yesterday. They could think of something like this. This is just a cheap way out.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were looking for an excuse, and they got someone on board who was a, let's quote say, hacker, you know. Because I have issues with hackers, to say the least. They did not hack this. They were given the keys to the kingdom, I'm afraid. If this came about from a developer working from home who was unhappy about this, then they didn't have to do this. They could have made their issues aware some other way. They could have spoken independently and anonymously to a reporter if they wanted to. Or they could have done any other thing, but the hacker issue does not sit well with me, because not every hacker does this for profit. Some of this do this for notoriety. And the example that I will bring up is the famous story of the pair of twits that actually broke into Microsoft and stole a Project Durango.
Yes.
Who they were selling components of that to make money, yet there were people on the Xbox Underground forums, who were their hacking group that did it, who just wanted to go on the server and play Halo 3. That was all they wanted to do. So this wasn't for gain. They just wanted to play a game. They wanted to play Gears of War as well. I don't see Gears of War 3, I think it was specifically. You know, so people don't do this for that. They do this for their own personal entertainment. They can do it, so they will do it. Yeah,
that's what I was hinting at.
Yeah, of course, I get that.
That's true.
So then, regardless of whether this is a hacker in the traditional sense or a disgruntled employee, I would like to hear both of your opinions on, do you feel that this quote-unquote hacker, for lack of a better term, is a whistleblower? Or do you feel that they are a troublemaker?
They're a whistleblower for sure. You know, there are policies that are put into place by many different workforces over the world that talk about whistleblowing, and the protection that they should deserve if they are to bring up something that is not ethical.
That's my next question: is do you think they deserve protections?
Absolutely. This person who, if they are a Naughty Dog employee, deserve protection because they have blown the whistle, essentially, on the hideous work practices, but not the right way of doing it. So they do deserve some sort of repercussion for what they've done, because Sony have. I'll swing it on the other hand. I don't agree with them, but Sony have invested a lot of money, as have Naughty Dog, into the production of this, and they shouldn't have their product leaked out there like that. But then again, they shouldn't sink so much money into paying corporate executives a lot of money to sit around and scratch their ass, to be honest.
Right. Jen, do you agree, disagree, have a different take on it?
If anything out there, if you want to name it, it's probably the closest coming to it is a whistleblower. And I also think it should not come around and hunt this person down for speaking up, because whatever, if it was revenge or wanting to change the whole attitude of this company and fellow companies in the gaming industry, and not only in the gaming industry, I think speaking your mind about the topic, even though the whole way they spoke about it and exposed their opinion, frustration, whatever, is a little bit questionable, should not be legal. Talking about something they are passionate about and choosing a harsh way to go should not come around and hunt them down and burn them like, some sort of witch. It should not go into a witch hunt and destroy this person's life forever in the industry if they want to continue working in it, if it wasn't like this. But I would protection, I think so, but let's go with because like Pete said, in companies, especially larger companies, they have people like looking over it, everything legal. They have a huge legal department, and it's still growing.
Yep.
Because it's getting more complicated and more. Every country has its own law system, so getting into it, being an expert in it, is just really hard. And you rarely have a lawyer practicing more than 1, 2, or even 3, if it's close tightly together, fields of law. So that's just and spending it on those legal department is necessary. Spending it on people like some business advisor, which
oh my god, you've gone into a right hot button issue right there, Jen. Love it.
And probably they even contacted some of them and also marketing and something like that to handle this kind of issue, which I dare to say led us to the whole hacker conspiracy kind of thing. If it was made up, it's just too convenient for it. But just not touch it like that. If Naughty Dog or any other company seeing the necessity of crunch, going to pay people like this and having an army behind that of people existing like this and setting it together like this, they have a strong force of this kind behind them. If they would put a fraction of this into hiring more people and having better working conditions, I might want to say this wasn't really necessary. And this hasn't been developed in the kind of mess we are in now.
Agreed. Can I just raise one last point? In terms of the whole leak side of things? When anyone starts working at any workplace, they are forced to sign a NDA or a non-disclosure agreement. That's where I think that this person who leaked the game out will get in trouble, because that's a legally binding contract, and legal departments should protect whistleblowers, but they also have to protect their best interest as well, and that's why they put together non-disclosure agreements. So we won't ever hear about any of this, because this, in terms of the American legal system, Kylie, you could probably talk more about this, being an American yourself, but most litigation you won't ever hear about, even after the verdict is done. So this is going to go non-existent. Nobody's ever going to hear about what actually happens.
It takes several years,
It can, and the judge, whoever's presiding over the hearing, can put what's called a gag order on, which means it'll never be released. The details will never be released.
That's what I heard about these gag orders in America.
Yeah, they don't fall under the Freedom of Information Act, I believe. They're completely separate from that.
It's mostly to do with corporate espionage that they put a gag order on, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, because even though I'm trying to be quite unbiased here, America does have a lot more protections in place for corporations than they do for the quote little guys. and that is one of them, which kind of actually does lead to one of the last portions of this first section, which is DMCAs. We've heard a lot more about them in the last couple of years. They do seem to be occurring with quite a lot of frequency now. Most people say they're just a lot of bluster and hot air anyway. They don't mean anything. But in this instance, with Sony being quite a powerful company, are they using, in your opinion, do you feel that they're using DMCAs as an almost censorship? They can just censor whatever they want. Type of thing.
Long and short answer, yes, I do. I think they were upset about the leaks. They were annoyed, rightly so, about them as well, because let's be honest here, there are only 2 games left for the PS4's generation. That is this and Ghost of Tsushima. Now, funny that Ghost of Tsushima hasn't leaked out because there's no controversy about it whatsoever. But yet, that Sony went too heavy-handed with this. I think they had a vested interest in terms of finance, and they didn't want any more sales being affected by negative press, so they decided to go out and go full North Korea on people.
Right. Which seems to, as we kind of previously mentioned, have the kind of opposite effect, which does kind of bring up, do you feel that, putting the conspiracy hat on, do you feel that the DMCAs are almost a distraction to get the attention off of Naughty Dog and put it on Sony, who can handle that kind of negative press? Or is that too much of a conspiracy theory than, realistic?
Go on, Jen.
Well, the censorship sure sometimes is needed, and not to put some sort of stop to anything that you don't want to be leaked, just to protect your
intellectual property.
Yes, exactly. But this kind of thing is just, I could imagine that people censored some sort of videos because they were taking too much of certain parts into it. I mean, I think it's, if you are making some sort of reaction video, sometimes a few fractions of a video that you are reacting to has some copyrighted content and it gets just muted out, and if you are over this amount of time, it got flagged immediately. And since we have so many uploads, so many things, so many content creators and different kind of outlets and different kind of styles, it gets harder to put a sort of lid on it. But on this particular case, I do think they want to stop everything they possibly can and not proving how. And it's just like it boils down to everything that I just mentioned and think, and still will probably think until the day I die. It's damage control. Damage control. And just, putting some sort of dam to the flooding leaks and just get off what you possibly can, and make some sort of explanation why you got it down later. Just get it off. But the problem on the internet is that people are so quick to jump on this kind of thing because they know there will be something that will take it down faster than you can say DMCA, probably. And they will upload it again and again and again because they copy and save it on their hard drives or wherever, and then just upload it. The one source gets taken down, upload. So it's hard to control this kind of thing, but if you would not be having some sort of shady company procedures, you wouldn't kind of worry about it.
Of course. But,
So redirecting it to Sony, to the mothers, so to speak, is not a far-fetched shot, if you ask me.
Okay. So Sony are guilty of abusing the DMCA takedown system far too much. And this isn't just their video game department. I'm talking about Sony BMG. There is obviously such a thing on the internet as fair use. And reactionary channels and critiques and reviews fall under fair use, regardless of their content.
Absolutely.
So I have seen a lot of channels. There is one particularly that struggles with the DMCA takedown system quite a lot. It's music reaction channels. So, I mean, it has nothing to do with video games, but it's just something that I wanted to bring up, that they do abuse this system quite a lot, and yet you can sit there and you can react to a video or a song, and it will get instantly taken down by a faceless corporation because of the fact that they don't want copyrighted material on there, yet have failed to remember that this is under fair use, actually. The thing is about the things that different about the leaks is the fact that these specific articles of the leak, the videos, the screenshots, the story beats themselves aren't in the public sphere yet because the game is not out. That's where the difference is.
Alright, okay.
So I agree with them for wanting to take down certain things for damage limitation. I don't feel they were taking the heat off of Naughty Dog, because Naughty Dog are almost as complicit in this one as anybody else, because they are funded by Sony. The whole project is funded by Sony, and this third-party company is also funded by Sony. They're under Sony's umbrella, so it's going to fall on them regardless of whether or not it's Sony Interactive Entertainment as the main company going, oh, you stick away from this, don't do this, because if that was the case, Neil Druckmann would have never come out and put that video out there stating that the game had gone gold and actually talk about the leaks.
Right. Which kind of brings us to our last point. Well, first, I feel like I should probably add for our previous statements that copyright and fair use is different in different countries. But we three are from US, UK, EU, so they're kind of very similar. In this, and a lot of the YouTubers that we're referencing are, fall under the same fair use laws as well.
Exactly, and for me, what the main point was is that a lot of these YouTubers never actually used the footage. They were only discussing, which falls completely under fair use.
That is the part that I wanted to kind of say, do you think Sony is trying a kind of loophole to use DMCA as censorship? Because, as Pete has pointed out, these don't have images, they don't have written dialogue, they don't have written text or audio files from the game itself.
No.
It is truly just someone giving their opinion, as is, of course, the Twitter post as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the DMCA has scope to cover those sorts of things. It almost seems like a bluff on Sony's part. And I find that interesting because Sony has experience with copyright disputes, several. So they've purposely released DMCAs that I feel that they know are full of hot air, which is a strange way to handle things, which brings us to Druckmann's response video. And the last little bit we'll talk about before we take a break. Druckmann is a controversial figure that we'll get into more in the second half, but he is well loved and well disliked among many. He's the creative force, the main creative force behind The Last of Us. He's not the only creator, but he's the one in the limelight, we'll say.
He's the lead story writer and
yes, exactly.
director on this game.
And he is the director, exactly. So, knowing that, his response videos, he's now had 2.
Mm-hmm.
Would you feel that is the type of behavior you would expect from a director?
I found the response video that he put out where they said that they'd gone gold was ill-timed,
very
unbelievably nearsighted, and a bit. And I'm going to be crude on this one. A bit like he was stroking his own dick, to be honest.
Right.
Because I cried at the end of the game. You wrote the game, man. What?
Right.
It's just weird.
Yep. And we won't explore that further because it needs to be explored in the second half.
Of course, but I just wanted to make it very aware that I found that choice to state that very weird.
It is. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of argument that he might burst into tears at the end because he saw something he worked quite hard on for, several time or even years, and seeing it being realized could move you. Sure, yes,
okay,
but
I get that.
But he doesn't strike like the type of person to be this kind of
right
in the this kind of person. So
yeah, I would get that, and I probably would understand if it was someone like Hideo Kojima saying that.
Right.
I would feel like it would be more sincere from someone like him, because he is involved in literally every aspect, including story, direction, animation, all of that. And to see the whole project realized as one that he's had every single hand in, I get that. Neil Druckmann doesn't appear to me the sort of person that would have his hand in every single aspect of this development. He's not. He doesn't strike me as the sort of person that would go around to every single team. So I'm going to go around to the animators. I'm going to go around to the script writers. I'm going to go around to these people who are doing environments, and these people who are character modelists. He's not going to talk to every single one of these people. So when he says that he cried at the end of it after, and you state it could have been based on the fact that he's realised this entire project, it still isn't as genuine as it would be from someone else is involved in every aspect of the creative side.
Right.
Yeah. I completely agree on this.
Yeah.
It more strikes, and no offense, and I didn't get into his character too much because he kind of struck me weird. My first sort of feeling about him, he kind of struck me weird, and I kind of
we will dissect that for sure in the second half.
That's just but he kind of feels like he would be the person that claims to personally shook every employee's hand and but didn't.
You get those kinds of people that they turn around as bosses. They go, "Oh, I'd be the sort of boss that would go around and thank everyone for their service," but they don't.
Yeah.
Well, final statements from you both. Do you feel that this will affect The Last of Us 2 in sales? And do you feel that there is going to be a change at Naughty Dog based on this?
I believe, in terms of the sales side of things, I think anybody who was on the fence about this game is now not going to buy this if they've seen the leaks. I feel that anybody who was overly excited about The Last of Us 2 was going to get excited regardless. And they would probably still buy the game. In terms of the structure at Naughty Dog, I think it depends on how successful this game is. If this game is a sales success, again, why do they need to change? Because they've proven once again that they can get away with these practices and people will turn a blind eye to it, so they won't change. If this game turns out to be a failure in terms of sales, then they will have to look at every aspect of them under a fine microscope.
Right. Jen, do you want to throw any last remarks?
Just a short one, because I do agree with this also, which is kind of boring because I agree on everything, kind of.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that I was hinting at the beginning of the podcast. It all boils down to the audience. And if they continue buying this game after everything, then this drama, the whole issue, was for nothing.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, so that is going to end our first half of this. We wouldn't normally delineate it so much, but we want to be sure that everyone knows that there were no spoilers in the previous hour. We're going to take a small break and go into the You Got This segment, which is just to kind of give us all a moment to clear our heads before we dive into the second half, which may and probably very possibly will contain spoilers for the last. So we're going to move swiftly on into our You Got This segment, which is a little segment we do every week. It's supposed to be 2 minutes, so we'll see if we can actually keep it there. But it's rarely 2 minutes. And it's just a moment to take out of your week to just kind of, relax, mindfulness, reflect, and all of those wonderful things. And because we're in a current environment that's kind of got us all out of our comfort zone, I actually thought that we'd revisit a topic we have revisited several times, but is still important nonetheless, which is if you are feeling lost, confused, under pressure, just don't know, aren't handling the current environment well. If you're in the UK and could be other places, but I know for the UK that you're always free to contact the Samaritans. And the good thing about them, I mean, there's several good points, but probably my favorite point, as someone who does not like to use the telephone, is you can actually contact them through email.
That's cool.
That's quite nice.
I am very glad about that. And so if you're like me and you'd rather write your thoughts out, you can always contact them at Joe, which is J-O, at Samaritans.org. They are available 24/7, day or night, all the time by phone on 116123, which is an easy one to remember. It's anonymous. It's confidential. It's safe. You can just talk all you want and all you need to, and they're there to do that. They cover all sorts of reasons. They're not professional mental health people, but they are good listeners.
Yes, and I can confirm that the number, even on a mobile, is free to call.
Excellent. Very good.
It's very nice.
They actually do provide also a way to contact them in letter form. So just if that's your thing, head over to Samaritans.org and it will have their physical address there. Well, it's P.O. Box.
Well, yeah, of course. Still a physical address.
Yeah, true. But it's still a physical place. And then if you...
I don't know, given the time frame that we're at the moment, or what we do things, I'm going to write a letter and then expect a response in 2 weeks to my mental health issue.
I know, exactly. Yeah, everything's running a little bit different nowadays, but...
I still like the fact that service is there, though.
I do too as well. It kind of just covers all the different walks of life.
Sure.
And then, of course, you can also support them. They do have an area to donate. You can volunteer, which is a good thing, and all of those sorts of things. Yes. So, and then they also have a lot of tips and things on their website. So, if you want,
which is very useful, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to admit, between them and the NHS mental health section, I've calmed myself down a few times in this interesting time of our lives.
Yeah.
Unprecedented time of our lives.
Yep, and I discussed in a previous episode how I phoned the Samaritans up after I was being made redundant from work.
Yes, absolutely.
So they really helped, actually. It was quite a nice little service to actually call and talk to someone who's not necessarily involved in the situation. It's essentially just a third party who can listen to you vent.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and sometimes that's what you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially me.
Yeah. So really, just as usual, as we mean this every week, but you're not in this alone. We are definitely all in this together. And we appreciate everyone that stops and gives us a listen. But by that same token, we also want to show our appreciation by saying, look, if, it's okay. It's okay to feel distressed during this time. And if you need to reach out, you can actually reach out to us on Twitter. We have ways to contact us, which are usually, you can find that at the end of any of our previous episodes, and types of things. But more than anything, it's very important that you remember that, we got this. We're on this together, and we're going to pull through it. Yeah, because that's what we do. Yes. We go through things and come out stronger. So we will do that as well.
Agreed.
Yeah. But, so we're going to move on to the quote-unquote spoiler.
Disclaimer. If you do not want to hear anything more, you better leave now.
Yeah. And we'll be here when you get back.
Yes. Especially if you want to listen to this after playing The Last of Us.
Well, yeah. I hope you do come back and listen to it afterwards. Okay.
Please remember this.
Now they're all gone. It's our turn. So, actually, I do want to discuss the leaks, but we should probably set up the fact that out of the three of us, I believe I'm the only one that played The Last of Us. Am I correct or wrong?
Yes, because I got spoiled about the game very early on and decided not to play it.
Yeah, and
so this is the second time this has happened in this series for me.
It's true. And then Jen, I think you might have stated it wasn't.
Yeah, I get the people loving it, and I'm happy for them. My boyfriend also played it, but kind of lost interest in it, and I was some sort of victim to that because I watched him occasionally play the game.
Right.
So I had no intention while watching him picking it up myself and play it.
Yeah,
that makes
sense. That's the thing that I can contribute to this. I haven't been playing it myself now, but I have some sort of knowledge and do know the protagonists.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That's the most important bit.
Yeah, I would say I'm the same. That I've obviously seen the spoilers, so I know exactly what happened at the end of the last game. So I can freely talk about what happens in this second game as if I played it.
Excellent. And then I have played it, and I've stated at least on 2 other occasions in the podcast previously that narratively it's very good. It's not a strong game. It's not a strong shooter. It's more of a movie cinematic experience.
That's fine.
Yeah, but I was drawn to the interactions of the 2 main characters.
Yes.
So that's the long and short of that.
Good rounding up.
Moving on. Yeah. Just kind of wanted to establish where we were all coming from. And so as we go into the leaks,
Oh boy, these leaks.
These leaks, guys. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to step back and let you guys discuss it.
Okay.
So
what do you want me to
discuss?
discuss?
I don't want to influence. Either way, I'll add something at the end.
Okay.
But okay, so the basic leaks are taking the story into a completely new direction that it did not seem to be going.
Okay.
The gameplay seems to be divided between two characters. One called Abby, who is really only referenced, honestly, in the previous one. You know,
Was she actually referenced in the previous game at all?
Not. I don't think by name.
Okay. But you
no.
knew that surgeon had a daughter or
right.
or a kid of some sort.
Yeah, because I think it's crops up in one of their dialogue things. Okay. Cutscenes, that's the word. But so the gameplay is divided between two characters, which is Abby and Ellie. Ellie being the protagonist from the first series.
One of the protagonists.
One of the protagonists, yeah. Ellie's all grown up, as we've explored in some DLC. So let's just dive into it.
Oh God. Just like that, we're just gonna go dive into the deep end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. Knowing what you know, knowing that this is a departure from the gameplay of the first one, what are your feelings on the game style of dividing it between two completely polar opposite characters? What do you think about that?
I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
Huh?
I just think that they've delivered it in the wrong way.
Right, okay.
I think mostly what the issue for people is, especially with people who are fans of The Last of Us, the original game, is that this person that they're controlling in potentially the second half of the game, they had no clue who they were. They didn't care about them at all. And from the leaks, they are going to do something that is very deplorable towards one of the protagonists from the original game.
Much beloved protagonist, I might add.
So,
right.
I think people are not very happy that they're going to have to control someone who eventually does something quite bad to someone that they've spent multiple hours controlling in a previous game and have grown to appreciate and have, appreciate the relationship between Joel and Ellie. You know?
Right. Jen, do you have any feelings on the divided gameplay between the two different characters?
Yeah, and from what's happening, I kind of get the perspective switch that they want to deliver. But as we established before, The Last of Us kind of feels like a movie, and this is something in this particular kind of storyline would make sense in a movie very, very much. And the trend goes to also switching the character doing a game, and it can add some layers, more understanding, more depth into a title if you switch the person that you can, the character, the person that you are controlling. But I don't see it as an enrichment in The Last of Us 2 in that kind of regard. And the point that you brought up before, you both, also someone controlling that does something to a well-beloved character won't actually be something. I can see some people, it doesn't really sit with people well, and I can see that this might be some sort of part where if I would be in this situation, I would put down the controller and never touch that game again.
I'm gonna be honest and say that's exactly the the route I would take as well.
Oh, yeah, but the problem that I have with certain parts of these leaks is that a lot of people have turned round and there's been this sort of targeted thing of saying if you don't like the direction that they are taking, then you are some sort of this and that, an ism or an ist or of some sorts.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate that I have a genuine concern about controlling a character who I don't know, I don't care about, and I don't like, you know? And,
yes.
Okay, agreed, like, you don't necessarily always control a good guy. GTA 5, you controlled Trevor, he was a scumbag, but he was at least entertaining.
Yes.
This
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
it just appears that they're just throwing this spanner in the works for a revenge-based storyline that gets you to play out half of the revenge plot, which I don't know sits very well from a narrative structure to me.
Yeah. I don't see the point giving the control over to this particular kind of person after what she's done.
Yeah.
And I don't see it as any way that might help you understand her agenda as well.
Yeah,
in this regard.
Agreed. You don't. It's not really going to help elaborate her motivations at all. It's just going to make her. It's just going to make you resent her completely.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't really think that you want to know why she did something. You just want to see her. Well, yeah, you want to see her dead, just like this.
Like,
yeah.
You don't really want to see any of these characters dead, though, do you? Despite how despicable they've acted throughout the original Last of Us, you know, you don't want to see them go like that because you've built up this relationship with them, and as strange as it sounds, you have an understanding with them, even though they're controlled by you. That you know their motivations, you know they're wanting to do all of this, and you can understand the implications that the choice at the end of the first game is going to have on the rest of the human race. And you know that Joel has done what he has done because he cares about Ellie, and that is it. That's all it is. And yet they're going to completely rip that mentality away because they want someone in there who is going to enact their revenge, and then someone else is going to enact revenge. And revenge plots have been done for years, and they're not new, and they're not interesting anymore. This one was done in the Count of Monte Cristo years and years ago, and it was original then, and it's not original now.
Yeah.
Going back to the switching perspective aspect, you brought up GTA 5, which is probably one of the main perspective switchers out there.
Yeah, I can't say I know too many examples of many instances where you do perspective switching games.
The one that I would bring up that I think actually probably relates more to this is Halo 2.
Oh, yeah, okay, agreed. Yeah, I'll get that.
You switch between Master Chief and the Arbiter, who are enemies in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. It was a Halo 3, they worked together, wasn't it? I forgot about Halo 2's plot of them actually running separately.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you had to switch perspectives between, who you were fighting, and it was a very interesting play. And then just on my opinion, purely on my opinion, it was well done, but I am a bit biased, obviously. But having seen that, do you feel like in this instance, knowing the leaks, is it a gimmick or is it an actual character development? Kind of the way they did it with Halo 2.
Go on, Jen. You take this one first.
Hard to decide on this, but
it's a great question, to be fair.
I don't see. I wouldn't miss it.
Right.
No.
And I don't see it necessarily, and it feels like, I don't know, everything about this plot, and I said it before we started recording, kind of sets me back to some serious that I've seen, that I've
Yeah.
played,
Mm-hmm.
which fits into the whole atmosphere, and it feels like they highlight something that is not enriching the plot
Yeah.
and just makes it maybe a little bit longer unorganically.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't see the point. I mean,
Yeah.
another perspective, get you control, get some other side of you, even another sort of, but no.
Just no.
It,
Yeah. I mean, you can. I think you can do the dual perspective thing, and you can do it very well. It's just this character's not even known about. I mean, it's interesting, really, that none of the promotional material at all that has come out from this game features this character at all. It's a bit strange. It's like it's a last-minute decision to include this.
Yes, exactly. It was just something to add additional drama.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
To another layer of the whole game. And I gotta say, if they would do it differently, because you switch halfway through the game, if you would do it on the beginning, it would not sit this kind of weird.
Yeah. I've got an idea of how they could possibly do this that caters to the old fans and also advances the story.
Yeah.
So it is stated apparently that in certain aspects of the game that Joel and Ellie aren't even together. They're running separate lives. So why can't you have one chapter playing as Ellie, one chapter playing as Joel? They come together in the middle of the story, and then you have this out of nowhere switch to this potential character that you're learning their backstory then, and then all of this comes to a head at the very end of the game.
Yeah,
that could happen. We don't necessarily know that. We have only seen a vertical slice of these leaks, you know. So what is there to say that there isn't context to this whole thing? And I think that is absolutely key. Is we haven't got the full context of what's going on.
Yeah.
I totally forgot, and talking right there, Pete, about another video game where they changed perspective and had a lot of fans up in Red Dead storyline.
Red Dead 2 or Red Dead Redemption?
Red Dead Redemption.
That's a shift at the end, isn't it?
Let's be honest, I'm gonna do some Red Dead Redemption 2. So
yeah, that's
no. Any objections? What about you?
Nope.
Play it.
Forget it until then.
I don't have to spoil the second one, but the first one does have that's the one I really care about. Bringing this up is unexpected.
Yeah.
And
to be honest, I actually thought that was a stroke of genius at the end of that game.
Well, that's kind of where I'm coming to is because they did it at the end and it was such a shock and surprise, but in a positive way. Do you think that just purely in your opinion, do you think that The Last of Us 2 was trying to do something like that? Kind of.
Yeah, I do think.
Yeah.
I do think they were, but I think they're trying to have this as an actual 50-50 split rather than it being dead at the end. It sounds to me like they want you to play half of the game of this character that nobody wants, nobody likes, and has seen a vertical slice of what's going on and are not interested at all. And I think rightly so. These fans are very invested in a story that has happened over 20-something hours in the previous game. And if that's what they're going for, fine. As a narrative choice, that is their decision. But as a consumer, we don't have to like it.
Right.
And I think that's the problem, is they're expecting
that-
people to like this change.
That brings up our next section, which is going to get a bit controversial, but as I stated at the beginning, this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the backlash that has occurred on the internet, and specifically in certain circles, is that any negative attention that is being shown on these leaks is being, some would say, misinterpreted. I'm going to say that I'm in that camp, as being a slight against the sexuality and the gender and those sorts of things of the characters.
Yes.
So, going forward, do you feel, let's just, we need to discuss this. Do you feel that the alternative, and I'm sorry if I'm using archaic words, I'm just trying to find the right way to express this.
Yeah.
The alternative sexuality or alternative genders have colored the reception of this, or is it merely the content itself?
I don't think you can have one without the other, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I think they've made a choice. They made a very, very clear choice with Ellie, with the Left Behind DLC. Or was it Left Behind, or was it... Yeah. We had this the other day, didn't we? Because I couldn't remember whether it was the Uncharted 4 DLC that was called that.
No, you had it right.
Yeah, they had this with Left Behind, where they explored Ellie's sexuality, because she was a slight bit older in those ones. So it's basically the gap, bridging the gap between The Last of Us 1 and The Last of Us 2, by the looks of it. And they explored that, and nobody had a problem with it then, at all. Right. Whatsoever. It was fine.
Yes.
It
made narrative sense.
Exactly. And I mean, you look at how it was in the E3 trailer that they had from 2018, I believe it was, where it was like they showed the game off for the very first time when they were in that tent, and Ellie's singing a song on the guitar. It's like, oh yes, she's got that guitar. Like, that's like key for everyone to get excited. They know exactly what they're looking at. And then we have this whole section of, oh, by the way, if you didn't play The Last of Us DLC, here's Ellie kissing a girl because she's a lesbian. It's like, it was kind of pandering, to be honest, I felt. And I looked at it and I went, I have no problem with this whatsoever. Before anyone even wants to call me an ism, an ist, or whatever it is, I don't care. I have no problem with that. What I felt the problem is this wasn't written in a genuine way at all. And from what I'm getting across from all the leaks is that these aren't genuine characters that are written that way. They are characters that have been written in a certain way that some unnamed advisor, Anita Sarkeesian, not unnamed anymore, I don't care. She has come in under the guise of Neil Druckmann to advise on feminist issues. Now, my issue with this is she only cares about furthering the women as an agenda and pretty much bashing down men completely. And I don't agree with that, because I might be a bloke, and I understand that a lot of people out there might have the same criticism, but my point is, I believe in a fair and equal society. Putting things like that does not make it fair and equal. It makes it tiered towards one gender over the other, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. If characters are going to be written, they need to be written in genuine ways. And my example for this, and I'll bring this up 1,001 times, people talk about the movie industry being about the patriarchy for many, many years. They do the same thing with the games industry, but actually, over the years, even in the 80s, the late 70s, the early 80s, we had films with strong female characters, like really impactful female characters that weren't written originally as a female character. They have changed the identity based on the actress who played them, and that was it. And they were strong, independent female characters who were flawed as well. That's my issue with this. You look at Ellen Ripley and Sarah
Yes.
Connor from Terminator
Absolutely.
and Alien, respectively. Strong,
Yes.
independent female characters
Absolutely.
who were multi-layered, multi-tiered, and absolutely genuinely written. This
Yes.
does not feel like a genuine representation of what a lesbian character would be doing or a transgendered character would be at all.
Do you have a rebuttal or a statement, Jen, that you'd like to throw in?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like I said, the switch and to Abby through the game feels unorganic as this does as well. It feels like it has to be implemented into the game, and I'm glad to any variety out there, and I 100% do support everyone, and in that, as long as it's illegal, it's not illegal, you know.
Yeah.
So, and even though some people, even though some people think that a woman loving a woman is illegal, it isn't.
No, it
Right.
isn't.
And it's something that it's normal. It's just normal, and it's great to see it more coming up and being, some sort of handled into video games and media overall. But, and this is where I stand with Pete, it's just very unorganic.
Yeah,
and it feels like we had to do it, we had to implement it, and we have to do it no matter what.
Thank you. I'm all for a narrative being about a certain topic that is controversial, but if it doesn't feel organic to me, I'm not going to be invested in it as much as anybody else. And that's my issue that I have with it. But yet, if you, in this day and age with outrage culture with Twitter and social media generally, if you have a genuine criticism about how a story is unorganic, you're called every name under the sun, and it's not fair. And I don't agree with that on any aspect, whether it be a male, a female, a transgender, someone who is a gay, lesbian, whatever. It doesn't matter who you are. If you criticize one particular aspect, you are given all of these titles, and half the people who were talking about all the stuff in the leaks have been called those things as well, which is just so wrong.
The thing is, and to keep it short, do something with passion or don't do it at all. If you want to implement something like this, some storyline like this, some characterization like this, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But at least pour your heart into it to give it the attention that it deserves, and don't do it lackluster because it's some sort of trend kind of thing, or everyone kind of does it. We have to bring attention to it.
Yeah.
It's the wrong kind of road you are going on, and it's the wrong agenda to begin with. It just is. Do it with passion or don't do it at all.
Exactly, and the thing is that these are very powerful themes that they could be discussing, and this could have a massive, lasting impact on these themes. If done right, it's done very, very well. If done wrong, it's so damaging towards that movement. That's my problem.
Yeah, not the movement itself, but also you as a person, you as you don't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Even though you claim to do it. And this is the thing that upsets me the most. It's just like, we have to do it. Everyone kind of does it, and we have to bring attention to it.
Yeah.
But do it right, and maybe do something outside of the radar, like, supporting the community by, I don't know, doing something for them, taking up a stand for them, but not doing something like this. This is just a mess. That would damage you and everyone else involved in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I will bring up now a very divisive character, for lack of a better word, named Anita Sarkeesian. If you don't know who she is, She's a very controversial figure, especially in video games. There's a lot of very difficult matters that she tends to get herself mired in. So I do say, if you want to read about her, maybe read up on Gamergate and all of that things, but we're not going to discuss that this time. But Anita Sarkeesian, who admitted in the early days that she is not a gamer, is someone who produces videos that, in their words, her admirers' words, calls out the patriarchy in video games. What this has done, there's two things. Neil Druckmann took her on as an advisor in Uncharted 4, despite the fact that her changes were seen as very, very bad in test groups and focus groups. They still went ahead with them and released the game. And most people will say Uncharted 4 is not the best work from Naughty Dog.
Oh, a lot of people will turn around and actually say the gameplay is one of the best in their series, but the story was not.
Yeah. Yes. Usually when I'm talking about Neil Druckmann, it's story focused.
Now, the issue I have with the story of Uncharted 4 was the fact that Amy Hennig had nothing to do with it.
Yes. I guess we probably should mention that before I continue, is that Annie Hennig, who we mentioned in the first half of this discussion, she was ousted during the making of Uncharted 4.
And replaced by Druckmann.
Which to me is very ironic as an observer, because she was the female and she's amazing and she has a litany of work behind her.
Of course,
our legacy. And she was ousted for a dude to make a feminist video game.
Who then had to bring on a feminist advisor to make it more feminist.
Yeah. So all of that's kind of great.
Yeah.
But that kind of sets up for those who don't know who Anita Sarkeesian is.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to put a little bit of my personal opinion in here, but then I'm going to step back and let you guys discuss.
Sure.
What we've seen in the last few years is Anita Sarkeesian has developed a almost cult-like following, and in this current climate of cancel culture and those such things, anyone who speaks out against her is usually labeled, as Pete said, with an ism or an ist, or their criticisms are not listened to, they're canceled. So I'm going to state what my quote-unquote qualifications are, and then I'm going to criticize Anita Sarkeesian. So I am a female. I'm a cisgendered female, born female. I'm straight.
I hate that term as is anyway.
It's a medical term. I don't care. So cis, straight, white, female. I also am a former kickboxer. I fight against men. I fought against several men. I respect them very much. They respect me very much. I've also played video games my entire life. I am autistic, so that comes with its own set of strange gender neutrality type things. I am a CEO who owns her own business, and I'm also a single chick who picked up and moved to a completely different country. I also believe, so having said all of that, I would think that I'd almost be a kind of poster child for,
Yeah, I was going to say you would be the epitome of what an actual strong, independent female woman would be.
Right, exactly. So, having said that, and I'm also an equalitist, which I believe that men and women are equal. They are different. We are different. We are different creatures, scientifically speaking, but we're equal. In fact, I would say that I'm stronger and smarter than a lot of dudes. But
I disagree. No. I feel emasculated by that.
I'm just tossing that out there for fun. So, having said that, having shown all of you listeners out there that where I'm coming from. Anita Sarkeesian does not speak for me. She does not represent me.
Good.
She does not. I can't get behind her ideas or her ideals. It's great that she has a freedom of expression and a pulpit to give her opinion. I support that. I am going to go ahead and reflect on what both of you have said and say that I, too, do not feel that the storytelling in The Last of Us Part 2 is organic. It feels forced. It feels as if they're trying to please different camps.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to explore is, how do you think, when this game is released, and it will be released in June, I believe.
June 19th.
June 19th. Will the current climate of people being afraid to speak out against Anita Sarkeesian and others like her, will that change the criticism of the game itself, the game's content? Do you think that that will affect it or influence it in any way?
You go first, Pete. I have to think about it a little more.
Okay, I was going to suggest you go first, but I'll take it. Take it. I do think that some of the criticism from some sides of the community is going to be a negative one, based solely on the representation of certain characters in the story, and it will give credence to certain ideas that Anita Sarkeesian has put out. But to be fair, that is a very small percentage of the community, and they are not exactly the most vocal majority like she thinks it is. That's my problem with it. She thinks it's a vocal majority. It's actually a very hardly vocal minority of people that actually play these kinds of games. The vast majority of people that are wanting to play this game are people who just love a good story.
I would agree with.
And my problem with it is it seems so disingenuous coming from someone who literally only jumped on Gamergate as a grift. And that is all. She has seen an opportunity to make money. And she wasn't very successful before, but the minute she jumped onto Gamergate and this whole idea of feminism and all this sort of stuff, of talking about fourth wave feminist ideas and all that sort of thing, now the whole thing has been a grift, and she has made a lot of money through Feminist Frequency by doing this. She has advised on various projects, such as this. She's done some advising roles at Marvel, who are also gone down the we'll call it the woke culture route at the moment, and also her partner in crime in the whole Gamergate aspect, Zoe Quinn, has also done the same, who has grifted money out of people on Patreon whilst not actually delivering a game at all. And yet will still refuse to answer that question as being men just criticising a woman developer. Oh boy. I could go down a real rabbit hole with this one, but I don't feel that Sarkeesian is very genuine in her criticisms about video game story at all, and I cannot get on board with her because she is just a grifter.
I don't have much to add. Jen, do you want to add anything, or?
Like you said before, Kiley, it's her right to state
Absolutely.
her opinion, and it's good that she does.
Yes.
But also, like, I'm fully on board with that, and also I think what Pete just said is just like she kind of, jumped on the train as soon as she saw an opening, an opportunity to do so. And the topic that she tackles, even though for me, as a woman myself, is very difficult to address because you can go wrong, and not just because you're expressing what you think, what you want, and what you mean. And it can take a completely different from the person that sees, reads, or anything what you think about it, a misunderstanding even. But her kind of placing herself in the industry and making, like you said, money off of it, it feels wrong. And the more she opens about it, the more she represents the opinion of hers. It feels like I'm speaking for everyone, and we agreed on this.
Yes.
And this is the thing that irks me very much about her, and I have stopped reading. I know very little of her. I was looking her up on Wikipedia, but I haven't touched anything she wrote, and anything she kind of put out there, because I don't think she is appropriate and even understanding what she can do when she puts her foot down. And even though I'm a woman, some women expressing their feelings can be kind of over the top, and I do think it's a little bit inappropriate how they express their feelings, and it's often out of anger, maybe feeling misunderstood and having no other way to express themselves, and then overreacting. And this is the thing that I feel with her, with Zoe Quinn, and everyone out there that want to take a stand. And not everyone, let's not say everyone, but the most prominent example kind of feel like they do this, but they do it 200% over the top.
Yeah, agreed.
If they cut down a little bit, just a little bit, they would be more believable. They would be more respected, in my opinion. I respect her to have an opinion, but I don't respect how she actually implements it out there, because it feels like I have to be loud, I have to be harsh, because men are harsh.
Yeah, and I personally don't agree with that, and I agree with you on the fact that she's allowed to have her opinions, and I don't want that to be stated otherwise. She's more than entitled to have her opinion, as does everybody in this world, and that includes me. And the thing is, right, that as a man, the minute I criticise anyone like Anita Sarkeesian, they poo-poo the idea that a bloke can criticise them because they are part of the patriarchy, and I don't agree with that. Everybody is open to criticism as much as praise, and she will not listen to criticism because it's a bloke saying it. But if a woman says it, then they must be on board with the patriarchy, and they're just oppressed. You can't have those both sides, can you? You can't. Yeah. You've got to be balanced.
Exactly, and she does not understand that words are words, and words can be used by men and women equally, and that should only matter. It doesn't care if a man or a woman or whatever is saying something. It should just, the content is what matters, not who says it, which race he or she has, or they I don't know. It's just words, and words can be used, and you should take them seriously and blend out if it was a man or a woman, or they say he or they saying it.
Exactly.
It does not matter, and she makes it so much of a deal out of it that she's kind of just weakening her own statement.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely.
Yep, I do as well, because there are a lot of people out there who just do not take her seriously because she only wants one angle, and that's it. Whereas people like us three and a few other people that we do know, we don't like to just take the one angle. myself as a man, I could just take the male aspect, but I don't. I'm a balanced individual who understands there are multiple sides to different stories, and it's not just an angle of this is down to the patriarchy, this is women's problems, this is people who have a problem with people who want to put pronouns and stuff like that, and it's just whatever. I don't get on board with that principle, because like I said, I'm all about equal opportunities, so therefore it means I am an equal opportunities towards and against. I don't have to agree with you 100%, but I can have a reasonable and open discussion if someone wants to be reasonable and open to discussion, not just throw criticisms around all the time with no valid talking points to come up with after that.
Which, let me add for the listeners that is the sole purpose of this particular forum in this episode.
Yep.
Is we want to get back to civil discourse where it's not all shouting over each other or just angry all the time, like, on Twitter and various social media.
Yeah.
We want to discuss ideas and see them fully formed. And in fact, I want to extend right now that if you're a listener and you are more aligned with, let's say, fourth wave feminism, and you'd like to come on and speak to us, again, civil discourse, not a shouting match. We would love to hear your take on things. Because right now I just really feel, I feel that what Druckmann's done has almost put himself, what is it called when you're in a game and there is like something done on purpose to make your character something proof. I can't remember. But it's to protect your character from breaking the storyline.
Yeah.
That I feel Anita Sarkeesian is for Neil Druckmann. It's almost a shield that he can hide behind.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and I will say for myself, because that's all I can speak for, is I'm not scared of anything, and
No.
so I'm not scared to state my opinion on this whole situation. I do not like where they've taken the characters. I think they've weakened their position, and I think by bringing Anita Sarkeesian on, Neil has damaged himself as opposed to enriching himself.
I would agree.
My opinion.
He is essentially discredited himself by doing so, because he's not looking at every angle, he's not looking at every side of things, he's just only looking at the side that furthers his agenda and furthers his moral standpoint on things, and I can't necessarily get on board with that personally.
So the next little bit that I want to kind of address is so the everything. Okay, I'm gonna touch on some very kind of just a little bit of nerdy geeky things.
You go ahead.
So I've seen the screenshots from the dev release.
Yeah.
Or from what's assumed to be the dev person. Anyway,
So
I've seen screenshots of Abby.
Are you talking about the leaks that have the code on them? Yeah, I've seen those as well.
So in particular, Abby, who is the I guess antagonist. It's the easiest way to call her at this point. What? Sound like you want to say something, Pete?
No. I was gonna say that it's like part antagonist, part protagonist.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't quite know how to label that one. That that role, I should say, not that one as a person, but that role.
Yeah, that role.
So Abby has physical characteristics that lead some to believe she may be a transgender character, which in and of itself is actually, that's that. I would love to see more of that. That's really cool, because that is a portion of the population, the general population. Everyone deserves representation.
Yeah.
I have some issues with post-apocalyptic scientific things. Now, I mean, let's be honest, she is the daughter of medical people. But as a female that has worked really hard to be very strong and has a natural strength about her, talking about myself.
Yep.
Women, when they work out, and I lift heavy weights. I do heavy weights, so I'm bulking up. They don't stop looking like women. In fact, the more weight I lose and the more muscle I gain, it almost enhances my physical shape.
Yeah.
The other women I've worked out with who do want to be more bulked up, more masculine appearance, have to take either hormone replacements or steroids to get that look. It is a look. It's a look that people do strive for. It's just not my particular look.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're in post-apocalyptic future. And I struggle to find out how a person would have the time while they're trying to survive, the time to devote to changing their physical appearance. That for me has given me some, and I will blame this on my autism and black and white thinking, but it's given me some issues with the authenticity, kind of as we were speaking earlier. So I'm going to speak out against this possible transgender character, but I'm speaking out against the internal motivation for this person's identity, because that is a true thing that people do deal with, and that my heart goes out to them.
Yeah.
I take issue with the scientific accuracy. I know it's a zombie game, but that's not sitting well with me. So I do wonder, is the criticism that I have that I think is going to be shared by some other more logic-minded people, are we going to be labeled as, what do you call it? What do you call it when you're against trans people?
Transphobic.
Yeah, that's...
transphobic. There you go. Gosh, yeah. Transphobic, and will that be warranted? And again, it all comes back to really what I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this is, are we going to get true criticism of this game? Are we never going to know, is it being protected, in this bubble? What do you think? Are we going to get true criticism on the game itself? I know I'm kind of reiterating here, but it's just, I just feel like it's got to be.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, we need to yeah, because we're reviewers. We're game reviewers.
Yeah, exactly.
All three of us. And we are given opportunities to review games, and we give our opinions on them, because that's what a review is.
Yeah.
So going forward, do you think that we're going to get honest criticism on this game?
Do you want me to go first, Pete?
I do. I want you to go first, Ben.
I would like you to go first.
First of all, Kiley, really, really good perspective. I love it.
Yeah.
I haven't actually think about that.
Right, okay.
And this just opened up a whole new perspective, which I'm grateful for. I think it's great.
That's the whole point of this episode, so I'm very, very glad to hear that.
Yeah, you delivered. Thank you.
Well done.
Seriously. Yeah.
No, thank you too. Thank you too very much. But anyway, yes.
I do think people are very split about this.
Yeah.
Because some don't want to touch any nerves, and they keep kind of flat about it. and not really touch the kind of important things. It's just the over too much water kind of situation over and over. Some people can't, separate both issues they might have and can take a good stand at it with being open-minded. Also, keeping a lot of work into reviews, which no shots at former other writers, but which I kind of miss these days a lot. Putting more overall thought. And even it's no shame to discuss it with other reviewers that might be review, even though it's the concurrent, the competitive outlet they are writing for. Right. It's no shame to hear and discuss it, which I would welcome more. And then there are other people that are just focusing on the issue with, that's not actually has something to do with the game. They were just like, I think this is something, this is attack against transgender people, or they misunderstood it completely. They have no idea what they're talking about, and so on. And then kind of forgetting that The Last of Us has music, has a gameplay, has a storyline.
Yes.
And not the topic overall. And that's the thing that I fear and think that they forget and don't conveniently sometimes, not all, but the most of them, I think, that are afraid to touch Naughty Dog and criticize them for whatever kind of reason. I think that people are actually afraid and taking this kind of direction wrong. But I do try to have faith in humanity.
Yes. I do understand that, that's for sure.
And I do hope that it will add something that is really necessarily have to be talked about. And I do hope so, but I don't see it happening. I see that many people were adding their opinion, which is okay, but going into the wrong direction with actually losing focus what it's actually about. And there will be so many features about this. This is something that because I don't really do like features anymore, because a lot of outlets have more features and opinion pieces than reviews themselves.
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay. Which is okay, but kind of completely gets lost focus of the purpose. But I do think it's going down a road that shouldn't be going down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pete, do you have anything to...
I don't necessarily disagree with you at all, Jennifer, there. The thing is that we've had controversial issues come up in video games a lot over the years. You just have to look at the... if you want to go through history and think about some controversial issues that have happened, BioShock's whole story is controversial, is it not? The idea of ethics and science and all that sort of thing. That's a great talking point, and it's an excellent lead to a discussion.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing with GTA 5 with the torture sequence in there. Morally wrong, but could have led to a very interesting discussion. And this actually came up the other day. The differences between GTA 5's torture sequence and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's, or was it Modern Warfare? Or was it Black Ops? I might have been Black Ops, I can't remember. But one of the games that had the no Russian section where you were infiltrating as a terrorist organization, and
Yes.
you had to go and kill loads of people in an airport.
Yes, that's right.
Brings up the moral ambiguity of Black Ops, basically, and Black Ops, and infiltration and all that sort of thing. People wanted that banned. People wanted the torture sequence banned. People probably wanted BioShock banned because they touch on things that are controversial, but people mostly aren't willing to actually have a discussion about controversial issues. They'd much rather ban them. And I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think controversial issues are what keep people talking about things long after the fact. And unfortunately, as a result of this, the way that the culture works nowadays, I don't feel like this game is ever going to really get a fair shake. It's going to be, it's going to get review bombs to hell on the aggregator sites because it's my representation, or you done me dirty with this story, or whatever.
A good point.
People are going to get harassed for writing positive reviews as much as they are going to write negative reviews.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's
very
very, very fair, considering that we've only seen a vertical slice of what is actually going on. And actually, it is not 100% confirmed that Abby is even transgendered.
That's right. That is true.
So people have already got it in their heads that they're going to be annoyed by this. And the last point that I want to raise about this, The Last of Us, the original game, is pretty controversial as is anyway. Its story beats at the very end brings up that debate that everyone wants to have, and it is a fantastic debate to have, but yet nobody wants to have that debate anymore. They just want to throw insults around and say you're being this, you are doing that, and it is not very fair. To be honest with you, I'd love to have a discussion about the implicating themes of this game once the game is out and out there, but to be honest with you, I won't play it. That's because I wasn't interested in The Last of Us, and I'm definitely not interested in The Last of Us 2, and that is nothing to do with the leaks at all. I wasn't interested in it. I'm just not interested in Naughty Dog games anymore, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that's an absolute valid position to have. Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, it's just that debate at the end of The Last of Us could have been a great thing, and it could have led into these great things happening again, where they've obviously wrote something that is very controversial, but controversy is good as well, because it opens up a dialogue and a discussion with people, and this is what we need to have. We need to have discourse, and this is exactly what this podcast is all about today, is having that civil discourse that is completely lost in society nowadays. And I lament it, to be honest, because I used to love debating about the implications of video games.
Absolutely. And actually, that's kind of brings us to the end of this week's discussion. But I do want to end with one more question, which Pete's already kind of answered. But
I can go into it more anyway. It doesn't matter.
You cut out there. I missed the last bit.
I said we can go into it more. It doesn't matter with me. I don't mind.
Oh, right. Well, no, it's a very simple question of, will you be playing this when it comes out?
Well, I've already answered it. No.
Exactly. And then, Jin, what do you...
No chance.
Is it too early to say? Right. Okay.
No chance.
Can I ask why? Are you a bigot? Are you a homophobe? Are you a xenophobe? Are you a transphobe?
Yeah, let's state for the record.
Or is it that you just have no interest in the game whatsoever?
I don't like Naughty Dogs.
I don't like Naughty Dogs. Yep.
So very good.
No, it's honestly, I wasn't too invested in The Last of Us to begin with.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting kind of topic to handle. We saw that format in various movies, games, TV series, novels, anything. It got a lot of coverage. It got great things out of it, but it is a hard thing to deliver properly without raising any questions. I mean, let's just cut to The Walking Dead and people bashing the TV series, which is kind of, yeah, it's true, but it's nothing that I want to focus on it, because if this scenario is going to be real at some point, we all screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it right now because we are in a situation that comes that kind of scenario quite close.
Yeah.
Right.
And people debating who is actually moaning that gross in the nature is just something you can nitpick on everything.
Yes, that is very true.
And it's okay, but what killed The Last of Us 2 for me is the whole thing that Naughty Dog does, and probably still, unfortunately, will do in the future and continues to do. Because if they would change anything, if not everyone would stop buying their game, if they would, regardless, even though it's the best thing to do, step away from their procedures, their work environment, they would admit that they are wrong. And people admitting that they are wrong is something that we all forgot, because we got shred into pieces online from the society because we either disagree, we open our mouth, or we actually say we were wrong. And with a stance like Naughty Dog, they won't back down because they just won't do it. And therefore, I'm not supporting them anymore. And will turn my back against them, The Last of Us 2, and their previous titles, and titles to be up in the future.
Agreed. I'll preface this with one last point. That for a zombie survival narrative-driven game, we've barely seen any zombies.
Yes. It's true.
Yeah.
Clickers, sorry.
Yeah, true.
That actually makes me think while we wrap this up, is do you either of you have any recommendations of a narrative-driven zombie game?
Ooh.
I actually don't. I kind of stay away from zombie stories.
Well, I mean, I haven't played it, but I've heard great things about Telltale's The Walking Dead. And apparently that being an absolutely superb example of how to do zombie survival in a narrative way. Especially that first game, apparently it had quite an impactful ending, and it's still spoken about as one of those games that people just absolutely love the hell out of.
That's true. I've heard that as well.
I've played it.
Ah, yes. Do you
from start to finish?
Okay.
Ah, do you recommend it?
I do recommend it. I really do. I also heard the majority of it not liking it, and some people do like it and Telltale in general. But I gotta say, if you expect it to be flawless,
right,
it isn't. And you have to be tolerant against a few things, and that you cannot control anything at all. Even though Telltale and every story-driven games that kind of give you a choice want you to believe you have absolutely no control. Which leads me to the closing words. You never have control. Never.
Fair point.
That's a great way to end this, Jen, because it sums up the entire second half of this discussion. So, on that wonderful note, I will say this: we won't do too much of our normal housekeeping, but I do want to say, well, first I want to thank both Pete and Jen for their time today and their contributions, because it has been amazing. Quite pleased with them. And I hope that this will reach the ears of people that want to hear more of it. If you do want to hear more of it, please contact us, you can visit us at the website, which is www.rapidreviewsuk.com. You can find us on Twitter at RR
Radio Pod.
Thank you. And then you can contact us via email on podcast@rapidreviewsuk.com. Please feel free to comment on this episode. If you'd be willing to speak from different points of view, we're always happy to hear that. And thank you so much for stopping by and listening to this. It's been a labor of love for all of us. I think we've all three very much enjoyed this format. So do either of you have any last little bit you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Neil Cuckman. That's it.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, I had to throw a joke in there somewhere.
True rapid review style.
Yeah, that's true. True.
Look, it's been a very serious discussion for nearly 2.5 hours, and I barely cracked jokes, so I need to get them in there.
Yeah.
We did very well for our episode 30, our grown-up episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jen, do you want to say anything?
Thank you for having me. Thanks for being a good host, Kiley. Thank you for being a good discussion partner, Pete.
Y'all have been fabulous.
It has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I tip my hat to you, Jen, and to Kiley as well. Well
Thank
done,
you.
The pair of you. It was great.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll be back to our normal programming next week, but we do hope to bring you more of these in the future with different guests, different point of view, different topics. Let us know if you want to hear more, and we will see and talk to you all next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.